Hey, so in the past couple of weeks, I was thinking, or better said, reflecting on some recent readings. So I read a lot of books about different occult topics, and among many of them, one of these topics stuck to me as it is quite intriguing. So I thought, why not talk a bit more about it? Now, personally, I have never tried crystal gazing or crystallomancy, nor had it done for me, but the idea is fascinating and captivating, at least to me. If you asked me 30 years ago, I would be all over it. But today, I don't know. I must admit, I do not think it is possible, or better said, I thought it is not possible. Now, with that being said, I appreciate the aesthetics and history of crystal gazing, and I love all occult topics. But the idea that gazing into a crystal can channel psychic energies seems a bit too far-fetched. Now, some of you may think, well, why would astrology and other occult topics or practices be any different? And honestly, I do not have an answer to that. All of the occult practices, including crystal gazing, are rooted in ancient traditions, and that is the main reason why I am doing it. Now, skepticism is healthy, but by acknowledging the value of many occult practices as tools for understanding and introspection of us and the world around us may lead to deeper insights about, well, everything. Crystal gazing is a practice, a mode of divination practiced from very early times with the aid of a crystal, globe, pool of water, a mirror, ink pool, or some transparent object. Divinations by means of water or ink are also known by the name of hydromancy. Now, crystal gazing may be a very simple or a very elaborate performance according to the period in which it was practiced. But in every case, the object is to induce in the clairvoyant or a medium a form of hypnosis so that he or she may see visions in the crystal. And this crystal should be of spherical or oval shape, about 10 centimeters or 4 inches in diameter. Of course, it can be larger. And it should preferably be a genuine crystal. Now, because crystals required for this type of divination can be quite expensive, a sphere of glass can be a substitute, giving good results. A glass or a crystal must be a perfect oval or sphere, free from specks and any flaws, highly polished, and it should have a stand. And this stand should be made from ebony, ivory, or some other good quality wood. Now, I have this obsidian mirror. I bought it mostly for the decoration, but now I'm thinking so much more. Crystal gazing or crystal scrying was mentioned by many scholars, such as Saint Augustine, Bishop of Hippo, who said that the ancient Persians were the first crystal gazers. And just to add here, as I will probably forget, a Persian novel called The Springtime of Knowledge mentions a mirror which was covered with ink and was used when anyone desired to see anything. The Greeks of classical days used a clear mirror, a practice which was revived in Europe during the Middle Ages. Dr. John Dee, much celebrated English mathematician, alchemist, occultist, astronomer, was said to have scryed a crystal, a black mirror. It was a flat black stone with a highly polished surface, 1 centimeter and 30 millimeters or half an inch in thickness, and approximately 18.5 centimeters or 7.25 inch in diameter, of a circular form. The mirror was supposed to be handled only by its owner, while others were allowed to look at it in a box. Now, mirrors have been used for stimulating the clairvoyant faculty since a very remote age. The speculari, or mirror diviners, had an established place in the religion of ancient Rome. Every magician and necromancer of the Middle Ages had his magic mirror, in which it was thought possible to conjure up visions of places and persons from another world. In ancient times, precious gemstones were used by crystallomancers, and the favorite stone was beryl in pale sea green or reddish tint. Now, beryl name is of Greek origin, berylos, meaning pale green precious stone, and in the beryl group you can find aquamarine, emerald, morganite, which is pinkish, heliodor, which is golden yellow, red beryl, and some others. Now, by the ancients, crystallomancy was practiced with a view to the invocation of spirits, and very elaborate preparations and ceremonies were considered necessary. The one who would practice such invocations would have to be a person of pure life and religious disposition. The crystal, as well as the stand on which it rests, was inscribed with sacred characters, and in some instances, the floor of the room in which the invocation was to take place would also be inscribed with the same characters. A quiet and retired spot was suggested for this purpose, so that the medium may be free from any disturbance. The time of the invocation was and still is chosen according to the position in heavens of various planets, and all preparations should be made during the increase of the moon. All of the instruments and accessories used in the performance, like the rod, the sword, the compass, some incense, as well as crystal itself, are to be consecrated or charged prior to the actual ceremony. There are many different ways to charge a crystal. It should be frequently magnetized, and one example is to make passes with the right hand, 5 at a time, and this keeps it alive. If you were to make them with the left hand, it gives it sensitiveness. It was also believed that individuals of a magnetic temperament, brunette, dark-eyed, with deeper skin tone, charge it quicker, but not more effectively than lighter skin tone individuals with lighter hair who are of an electric temperament. In these ceremonies, different approaches were used, but in most of them, during the invocation, clairvoyant faces the east and summons from the crystal the desired spirit. It is preferable for the medium to remain within the inscribed characters on the floor mentioned earlier. Now, many alchemists and occultists throughout history use this form of divination. But for example, Paracelsus, a Swiss alchemist, philosopher, and physician, whom I have mentioned in some of my previous videos, said that such elaborate ceremonies were unnecessary and that the magnes microcosmi, or the magnetic principle in man, was in itself enough to achieve the desired goal. Paracelsus recommended taking 10 parts of pure gold, 10 of silver, 5 of copper, 2 of tin, 2 of lead, 1 of iron fillings, and 5 of mercury to create a shoe stone, basically something like a mirror or a crystal ball. Now, this lead should be melted, and after that mercury should be added when Saturn and Mercury are in conjunction. Once cooled, it should be reheated when Jupiter is in conjunction with the 2 already named planets, so Saturn and Mercury, and then the tin is added. When one of these planets is in conjunction with the Sun, the Moon, or Venus, the gold, silver, and copper should be added. Then, at a conjunction with Mars, powdered iron is added to the mixture, and this should be stirred with a dry witch hazel herb. Now, this mirror should have a diameter of at least 5 centimeters or 2 inches and should be cast in sand at a conjunction of Jupiter and Venus. It should also be smoothed with a grindstone and polished with Tripoli powder when the planetary influences are favorable. When the mirror is prepared, it should be kept in a clean linen cloth, and one may see in it the past and the present and all the doings of men, all that has ever been spoken or written, and the person who said it, and his reasons. In the middle of the 19th century, Baron Karl von Reichenbach, a German chemist, philosopher, and geologist, formulated his theory of idyllic emanation. He claimed to have discovered that all material objects, especially magnets, crystals, and the human body, are filled with a peculiar force which they diffuse in the form of an aura or halo that by sensitive individuals can be seen more or less clearly surrounding the object or a person with a cloud of light, and this force he called odil. So it was his belief that the human brain, particularly the part known as cerebellum, this is a part of brain located at the back of the head, just above and behind where spinal cord connects with the brain itself, this was or is the main storage of odil for the body, like an electric battery or accumulator, and that whenever the gaze is fixed upon any object, a ray of odil streams between the brain and this object. Now, what we know is that beryl, crystal traditionally used for scrying in its various forms like emeralds or aquamarine, contains a proportion of iron oxide, but so does ink, and ordinary glass, from which mirrors are made, contains iron salts. The human body also contains a certain amount of iron oxides in blood. So a suggested explanation for crystallomancy is that the crystal itself acts as a kind of magnet to the emanations from the spiritual world which surrounds the seer. And these emanations or psychic impulses are attracted into the crystal, and they set up vibrations or waves in its odyllic or odic force. And then these vibrations are reproduced in the odyllic content of the brain, thus giving rise to real visual impressions. It was also considered essential to success that the moon should be increasing in light, as the idyllic or magnetic power of the moon is too well established to not to be taken seriously. This mirror or crystal should never be exposed to direct sunlight. It was thought that the visions seen in the left hand are real and those in the right hand are symbolic. Seeing ascending clouds means yes, descending clouds means no. Clouds of white, green, violet, or blue are good signs. Green was and is a sign of hope, which increases according to the depth of the color. Black, on the other hand, had a negative meaning, while red, orange, and yellow were considered to be very unfavorable colors. But not every image seen in the crystal is of psychic origin. Many eminent people of science who have studied the phenomena of crystal vision have concluded that the peculiar state of the subject when observing in the crystal is not much more than a self-induced hypnotic trance, the result of concentrating or fixating the attention for a while on a single point. It is possible that many visions seen in the crystal are projections from the subconscious mind, and these projections may be the revived memories of events and incidents which the individual has actually experienced, or of which one has heard at some point in the course of one's life. So then, how to discriminate between the various classes of phenomena? I guess only by intuition, as this is the one way that will rarely lead the true seer falsely. Useful suggestion is that the back of the scryer should be to the light. Most crystal gazers insisted on this. Some scryers looked at a candle flame through an egg-shaped crystal and got equally good results. If scrying is to be done for another individual, the crystal or the mirror should be given to that individual to hold it for a few moments so that it can be charged with some of the individual's content of Adel, which according to Reichenbach is constantly streaming from the fingertips. One should hold the crystal in the left hand and place right hand on top of it, and then return the crystal to its stand in complete silence. A beginner should go alone into a room, sit down with the back to the light, place the crystal ball or the mirror on the lap and just focus on a dark dress or dark piece of cloth, trying to exclude reflections, thinking of anything that pleases the individual, staring for about 5 minutes at the mirror or crystal. And it was said that if after 2 or 3 attempts one sees nothing in the crystal, he or she will probably never succeed. Now, when not in use, the crystal or mirror should be kept securely in a dark receptacle, after being wrapped in a black handkerchief made of silk or in a piece of black velvet kept for this purpose. Now, the reasoning behind this was the avoidance of heavy charge of odic or magnetic force, which mostly come from sun and the moon, as this heavy force is sufficient to disturb the sensitivity of the crystal. The best times to use a crystal is just before the twilight, and this hour is particularly favorable to occult manifestations of all kinds. And crystal gazing should never be done shortly after a meal. So what is important to know, something that everyone should pay attention to and make a careful distinction, is between a genuine crystal gazer or astrologer or numerologist or herbalist or tarot master, you name it, and the commercially minded prophet or sibyl. It is an inflexible rule of the occult that whenever any manifestation of psychic power is exploited negatively by human beings, that power, if not taken away, at least ceases to display its deeper and more inspired attributes. The genuine seer does not force its power-seeking attention from the world, because the possession of true psychic insight is too precious of a gift to be publicly paraded. To those who truly aspire to learn crystal gazing or any occult practice, it is advised to live as cleanly as possible, because bad health caused by gluttony, sensuality, sloth, and materialism are incompatible with clairvoyance. Now, I know that throughout history there were many occultists who were strongly influenced by substances like drugs, alcohol, or sensuality, and first one that comes to mind is Aleister Crowley, of course. But do not be fooled. We should not force these practices or our minds to anything more than what it can accept. There is no point doing that. The quest for understanding should prioritize balance over excess. So the wannabe seer of any kind should prioritize health, diet, and the way of living. Fresh air, healthy food, exercise, and the contemplation of nature are strong aids towards the attainment of psychic power, as this prepares the most suitable ground for its growth and development. Long walks through the forest or in the countryside, alone if possible, should be indulged in. Moderation should be observed in all things, but especially in drinking, eating, and the expression of the emotions. Complete and absolute abstention from alcohol is the ideal, but at least moderation should be observed. And one should always strive to purity of speech and action, as the communion with the world of spirits and above are not for those whose thoughts are tainted with worldly desires and passions. It is for those who can realize the infinite in themselves and who hope to become one with it. In life, it is inevitable to encounter people who dislike us, who will try to undermine us, but there will also always be those who support and appreciate us. And by recognizing that not everyone will be in our corner, this understanding promotes resilience, and it allows us to stay true to ourselves and to pursue our goals, not being put off by the negativity of a few. And I will finish today's video with a wise saying from Peter Zerlenga, the author of The Orator, who said that the best mirror is an old friend. In a world where we often seek validation from external sources, it is important to remember that our real growth often stems from our close and long-lasting relationships. And for those of you who want to start something new, maybe some occult practice, Zerlenga's simple saying to begin, may serve you as a perfect motivation. For me, at this point in time, it will be crystal gazing, and this video is one of my first steps. So thank you for joining me today. Please let me know what you think about crystal gazing, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully there won't be any delays. Bye!